Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. Those are my two favorite game shows of all time. I'm a trivia nut, so yeah, the, that's my thing. Um, Music, of course. You know this, Jasmine, from our off-camera conversation.
Yes, I know.
Um, um, I'm a big Phyllis Hyman fan, as well as Nat King Cole, Johnny Mathis, Dionne Warwick, and so many others. So many others.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I sing the way I feel. When I do a video, I sing like I feel.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, Eric does have a YouTube channel. I will have it linked in his Instagram in the description box as well. He's done some very interesting covers of older songs that you may or may not have heard of. May or may not have heard of. So, Eric, are you moving your chair?
Oh, someone was just bringing me food.
Ah. So now we have the question about where you see your life. Because everybody from the time you were little, at least you hear the question, well, what are you going to do when you become an adult?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
do you want marriage? Do you want children? Or what kind of career do you see yourself having?
Well,
That's everyone's number one question.
now that you pose that question, marriage, yeah, children, no.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because caring for a child is a big responsibility in and of itself. And then you have to care for yourself. And then what if you have a down day and you gotta get up just to tend to a child when your body just physically does not want to cooperate?
I can understand that, and that's a reasonable explanation.
And it and I know as far as you're concerned, I think having a family is pretty important to you.
Yes, it is. I, for me, it's just like I work very hard to be independent, and
So do I.
I'm grateful that I'm independent more than what was
Yeah.
presented to me and all the people that I saw when I were younger that could do less than me, and then you had those people that would say, you know, you might not be able to do this, but I've never took that as, okay, you say I might not be able to, but you're just making me
Yeah.
more determined to prove you wrong. And I know as a person, you should never let somebody dictate your determination, telling you what you can't and cannot do.
My
But people telling me I can't do something was all the motivation I needed to say, you might think I can't, but if I can't, trust me, I'm gonna find a way to do
that's the thing. I mean, use your detractors for what they're really good for. Motivation.
it. Exactly. They really are
I
because
mean, a lot of things that I wasn't even sure that I'd be able to do that I can do very, very well. I'm really skilled. And, you talk about, dealing with children or I didn't think I'd be able to hold on to a baby. I mean, holding on to a baby actually scared the crap out of me
yeah.
until my stepmother kind of got me out of my shell, if you will. My sister is now 22 years old. So she asked me, she said, "Do you want to hold your sister?" And I was so scared. I wasn't scared of her. I was just scared that I was gonna drop her. But it's like the minute I got my arms ready to hold her, and then before I knew it, my nervousness completely faded. And when my other sister was born in 2001, she was real close to me. She was real close to me. She still is. And I mean, anytime that I would go to leave her, oh my God, I hated it. That was the absolute pit. When I saw her face get real serious and that bottom lip pop out, uh-oh.
Oh, I feel bad for her.
And I mean, even when she started, learning how to talk, she couldn't say brother. She never called me her brother at first. I was her brother. And whenever she wanted to get my attention, she would pull on my arms trying to get me to follow her, like, come on, brother, come on, brother. I'm like, okay, sis, where the heck are we going? But she kind of gets it. And I think my oldest godson, he asked me a few years ago, he said, Godfather, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, is what you have permanent? And I looked him right in the eye, and I said, unfortunately, yes. And he tends to understand that pretty well. He just doesn't understand the muscle spasms. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this yourself, but have you eaten something that was like really, really, I guess, kind of tangy or almost borderline kind of sour, and it kind of just makes your body like shake?
I don't think so. I might have, but I can't quite remember, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I was eating salad while I was talking to my godkids on camera, and I had put a piece of salad into my mouth, and it was on my tongue, and my whole body just went. And it scared the crap out of my godson. I'm like, and then when I finally stopped, I'm like, don't worry, man, I'm all right. And I think you've had a little experience with this yourself. Little ones and power chairs.
Yes, I have an power chair experience.
Yeah,
If you don't know what a power chair is, it's an electric chair that you control with a joystick.
Exactly.
And that's usually not your first chair unless...
No. I didn't get my first, speaking of firsts as far as power chairs go, I didn't get my first until March of '99. When did you get yours?
I got my first power chair when I was 13. I was in my last year of middle school.
Okay.
So they start you off with a manual chair because they feel as though it builds your muscles and you have to push yourself. And
which is a serious pain, I might add.
Yes, it can be. So you push yourself and all of that. So you start off with the manual chair. If your arms allow, not everyone starts off with a manual chair.
No way.
But if you have motion in your arms, they will start you off with a manual chair. If you do not, then they will give you a power chair.
Right.
Now, as you get older and you go from the manual to the power chair, it can be quite a task because if they feel as though you are still capable of pushing yourself around, they will deny your request for a power chair. Then doctors have to get involved, therapists have to get involved.
Oh, jeez.
And just the whole idea of getting a chair, and I can do a whole video on this if you guys would like,
Oh, yeah.
about the whole process of how to get a chair. It's just not an easy process because you
No, it
not only
isn't.
have to go through the doctor has to agree, then somebody else has to agree, and
Your
then you have
insurance.
to go through the insurance company, then they have to
Oh,
agree.
yeah.
And then the insurance company has to either say, yes, I'm going to pay for it, or no, I'm not going
Oh,
to pay for
no.
it. And if
Yeah.
the insurance company says no, then yes, then you have to go back and start all over again.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah,
just
because
wheelchairs in general are is a thing.
I absolutely remember after getting fitted for the chair that I have now. I got fitted in April of 17, April 7th, 2017. And I remember calling my mom up and telling her how everything went. Like, so when are you gonna get it? I said in about 4 or 5 months. And she starts freaking out, going, "What?" And I'm like, whoa, 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 hold it, Mom. Before you get all hysterical, if I have to wait just a little bit longer for something that's gonna make my life, my quality of life, just a little bit better, then Mom, that's a small price to pay. And she goes, "You know what? You're right. You're right." I
I'm
got
glad you could convince your mom of that though. But
come again.
I'm glad you could convince your mom of that though. But
It's not that easy for you.
no,
Ah!
because in October of 2020, when we got this whole pandemic.
Pandemic going.
I'm not gonna say the word, but I'm gonna say pandemic. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I
If you
will
don't,
leave it in
if
the description.
forget that, you've been living under a rock. Just say that.
So my power chair broke in October of 2020. Okay, we called the company that fixes the chair. They come, they fix it. It works. Yay! Everybody in a good mood. Yay! Somebody did their job and they did it correctly. So it is now time for me to get back in my chair because I was sitting on the couch while they fixed it and do all that fancy stuff that they do that I don't understand.
Exactly.
So he brings it back in the house. Everything's good. He was like, "Okay, see you later." I get back in the chair. We hit the joystick button. My mother tested it before I get in it to make sure it works. We hit the joystick button, and then the joystick don't work.
Oh no! Are you
No,
serious?
yeah, she had just tested it before I got in it. So we
Oh
turned it
no!
off so we could get it at the right angle. So after she moved it to the perfect spot so I could slide in it, we cut off
Good,
the chair, and then I got in the chair, and then the chair didn't work.
good night.
So we had to call the person back, and he was like, "Good, I didn't leave, and I'm gonna see what happened because when I gave it to you, it worked. You saw me bring it in the house, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
Now he goes back and can't figure out why it's not working, so he decides, well, let me take it completely apart to figure out what happened.
Oh.
So come to find out, the wires that connects my joystick to the battery to the chair and all that fanciness, the wires rust. They're rusted. There's nothing they
Oh
can do.
man.
Even if they put the new parts, because he had switched out the old parts that were broken, he switched them out. But now he's figured out that the wires are rusted, so the chair is no more good. Now that was October of 2020. Now, mind you, you can call the insurance company, gotta go do a doctor visits to get a new chair. We do
Yes.
all that. Come to find out, what do they say? You are denied for a new chair.
Oh
And
no.
why? I'm gonna tell you why. Because insurance companies, by law, only pay for a new wheelchair every 5 years.
Oh crud.
So in
Yeah.
October of 2020, my chair was technically only 4 years old.
Mhm.
In June of 2021, which is in a couple of months, my chair will be 5 months old, which means I can get a new chair.
Okay.
But what am I supposed to do without a
Yeah.
working chair? Guys, you know I'm independent. What am I supposed to do? I don't like people pushing me around. I don't even like people cooking for me something. I clean for myself. My mother helps me when I need it. But I pretty much do a lot of things for myself. So what am I going to do without chair?
Yeah.
So that means you either
Oh,
have to request that the insurance company, if you can find a rental chair,
right.
you have to get them to request that they'll pay for a rental chair, or
Mhm.
you have to go back to a manual chair if you have a fold-up chair that goes in a car and
Oh,
use that.
gee.
Luckily,
Gosh.
by the grace of God, there was somebody at my church that had a chair, and I will be forever grateful for her because it was a power chair, and she let me use it until I get my new chair in
Thank
June.
God for that.
Exactly. So, chair requesting, chair getting can be an uphill battle when you got to deal with insurance companies.
Yeah. Oh, oh yes. Oh yes. Yes.
So,
Yes. And
I have like two more questions for you. My next question is, what is your day to day life like? Just give the people an idea.
oh, good night. Mm. Well, it can. Well, I'm pretty independent, much the same way you are. I don't. I don't like anyone invading on my independence. That really makes me. That angers me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very low tolerance for noise, for gossip, nonsense. So yeah, I can pretty much get myself up if I have to. So I'm pretty independent when it comes to like brushing my teeth and such. But I do need help, if I'm having a shower.
Mm-hmm.
I need total help with that.
Okay.
Now, as far as preparing meals, I don't go near a stove. I use a microwave for most of the stuff. My mom buys me some microwavable meals to to eat and things like that.
Mm. So, do you not cook because you cannot, or do you just do microwavable out of preference?
It's
I know some people are scared of the stove, and then some people just can't reach or work around the stove.
it's a little bit of all of that. It's a little bit of what you just mentioned.
Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure there's a question of how do you live? Like your parents on your own or with an assistant or
This is an assistant. I live in an assisted living facility. I've been here for the last 3.5 years. I've been here almost 4 years.
okay. So if you guys don't know what an assistant living is, it's a place where you have like 24-hour care, you have your own room, but you always have someone with you. like a nurse or
A
home
caregiver.
caregiver, as they like to call it,
Mm,
and they're required to be with you a certain amount of hours. Most likely, if you live in an assisted living, they
yeah,
live with you, if I'm not mistaken.
they work. Yeah, because you have two shifts. You have the morning shift and the evening shift. The, these caregivers work in shifts.
Uh,
I've done this for the last 7 years. I started this journey on January 2nd, 2014, and this is after my mom had moved out from where we had been living into an apartment that wasn't wheelchair friendly for me.
mm,
So I was like, I gotta find another way. I gotta find another. And in 2013, I had toured a facility. It was nice at the time.
mm-hmm,
Stayed there for 3 years. But the one thing I really didn't like was the lack of communication.
mm-hmm.
For example, I'd be getting ready to go to the league, okay?
If you don't know
And
what the league is in Maryland, it's like for people with disabilities. They do teaching, training, and it's just a place for you to meet people that are sort of in the same situation
yeah,
thing as you. But you
yeah.
may finish.
Say it again.
You may finish your statement.
Yes, and I really don't like. I'm getting ready to go to the league. There's a mobility bus waiting for me. Then someone, just as I'm about to leave out, says, "Oh, you have an appointment today." Okay, so when the heck were you gonna say something? I hate the lack of communication here. I mean, I hated it then, and I'm really not a fan of it here because 2 days before Christmas, I received an unwanted present in the form of a positive COVID test. That was
Mm-hmm.
enough. That was enough to really. That was enough to really freak me out. But
Mm-hmm.
the horror I felt quickly turned to anger because no one around here had the common decency to tell me that I had tested positive.
Mm-hmm.
The only person who was bold enough to tell me this sort of thing was my service coordinator
Mm-hmm.
because I had a migraine headache and I was sneezing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, I'm like, oh, this is a migraine. I've been through this before. And at around 1 o'clock that afternoon, she said, "Hey Eric, I just got an alert saying that you tested positive for COVID." So I'm looking at this, my eyes are wide, my jaw's hanging, and I'm like, oh God, what now? I call my service coordinator suggested that I call my mom. I said, You don't have to you don't have to say anything but call. I will talk to you later. So I hurried up, called my mom, gave her the rundown. I told my mom, I said, well, I just got off the phone with my service coordinator and she really laid one on me. It took me about a minute to collect myself and say one word, COVID. And she's going, what? It's like, didn't nobody tell you anything? No. My service coordinator was the only person to say anything. And she said, "You know what? I'm over this. I'm over this. One way or another, you're getting out of here." I said, "Believe me, this is what I've wanted the last couple of years."
Mm-hmm.
Because between losing a housemate and then you have two other housemates that don't know, that do nothing but gossip and spread your business around like wildfire, no one has time for that nonsense.
I can understand.
So, I mean, so I was just talking to my mom recently. She goes, "Good Lord, Eric, why are you always so hostile?" I said, "Because I'm sick to death of being jerked around by everybody here, particularly those bigwigs who claim they have your back, but they can tell you everything about a party that's going to be a major dud, but they can't tell you that you have a virus that can take you, that can incapacitate you, and ultimately take you the heck on out of here." Jasmine, I think you would agree with me that something's wrong.
I would. So that
Something.
leads me to this.
Hmm.
Is living not in a facility an option? Because I do know that is an option for some people. So is that an option for you?
Yes, actually, I'm in the process of moving out of here as I talk because DDA has to look at my file and do their due diligence. So once that happens, I'm gonna be out of here.
So do you mind explaining what EDA is to the audience?
Well, DDA, I'm not exactly sure what that stands for. Maybe you could help me out with this.
Okay.
Um, it's actually run by the state, and it deals um with the interests of folks with disabilities of all types.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is if you have a problem, much like the ones that I've been experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
your service coordinator runs whatever your grievances down to them, to someone who works there, and they usually work on a way to resolve whatever problem you may be experiencing.
Okay. So let me just explain really quick what a service coordinator is. A service coordinator is the person you go to when you have a problem. It's like the person that manages things specifically pertaining to you and your disability.
Correct.
You talk to them once a month. They come and see you. They do home visits, home studies. And
Correct.
then there is a state nurse that comes and evaluates you every 6 months, every 3 months, depending on how much they need to evaluate you.
Uh-huh.
So, what they do is they come, they ask you the typical questions like, how are you feeling? They might take your temperature, make sure
Yeah,
you haven't had
yeah,
any doctor's appointments, any falls, or anything like that.
yeah. Just a basic, quick evaluation.
Yeah. So, not everybody lives in an assisted living. I don't know if I said this on my channel, but my mom lives with me and she helps take care of me. But my apartment is wheelchair accessible to the point where if I needed to, I can cook, I can bathe myself, or do anything like that if my mother was not here.
Oh,
But I would still have to require a home service person, which you can choose, by the way. It
Really?
doesn't have to. Yes, you can choose a service person. I know some people don't get to choose. They get somebody that's like a registered nurse or something like that, depending on their needs. But I was able to choose who I wanted that to be, and y'all know how me and my mother are.
Ah,
We're tight, and y'all know how I feel about if I
is,
gotta explain something to you, I
is
need to
it?
understand and having new people in my space. So for me, that had to be my.
Oh, oh gosh, I've had so many experiences. Yeah, can you imagine your chair's busted up? You can't put your tray on. So you're going to the table with a Lunchable on your lap. You think the guy's gonna put it on the table for you. What does he do? He throws the thing away.
Wow.
So to say so to say this guy was wearing a smile on his face and then he's going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like, you're sorry. Sorry ain't gonna put no food in my belly. Sorry is not gonna solve my problem at this current time. Why
Yeah.
would you throw away my food when you know good and darn well that my tray, I can't wear my tray right. I'm stuck. You gonna throw my food away? And then he backs up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't be sorry. Be careful, man. Be considerate. I mean, come on. And I mean, I really don't like to have to explain certain things to certain people because it's like it flies over their heads.
I can understand that.
I can see why you wanted your mom to be to be with you because number one, you guys have an undeniable chemistry together, and you don't have to put up with a whole lot of nonsense. I mean, come on. I mean, I can remember a time where I gotten stuck because I got something out of my freezer. I got a pizza out of my freezer, and I was raising my seat to go back down, but I was actually stuck in midair.
So some wheelchairs can be adjustable because some people
Yeah,
need the pressure taken off their hips. Sometimes they need the pressure taken off their legs, and
off
Eric's
the
chair is adjustable.
off the and some need uh pressure taken off their behinds because if you sit, I think you know this pretty well. If you sit too long, then your behind is going to start.
Yes, it can cause a lot of pressure to that area as well, and it also can become sore and create sore if
Pressure
you
so
don't move around.
around. Yeah, I've actually been down that road, and when I
I
was
feel for you.
when I was in the hospital in '94, when I had that second CP related surgery, let's just say that wasn't a pretty sight or a pretty.
I feel for you. I really do.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm really not. I'm not really one to eke out sympathy from people, but coming from you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And I know you don't like sympathy, but sometimes it is necessary.
Sometimes it's warranted.
Yeah, sometimes it just happens and there's nothing you can
It's,
do
it's,
about it.
it's cool. I mean, just concede defeat because you can run into some pretty cold hearted folk up in here.
Yes, and I try to be as genuine as I possibly can.
Oh,
Not in that conceited.
I think I think the audience is gonna get an idea of it if they don't already.
So I have one final question for you.
Shoot.
So my final question is, if there's anything in the disability world or community that you would like to see change, what would it be and how do you think they can change it?
Well, I really think there should be more places that are wheelchair accessible
Mm-hmm.
because I mean I've gone to churches that are like that, but you still have some that are not wheelchair friendly. I mean, not just churches in general. I'm just talking about places in neighborhoods.
I
And I'm
can
pretty sure,
answer
and
that.
I'm pretty sure you've gone to places where um you've gone to venues to perform, and you've had to endure that
Yeah.
it's it's very frustrating. But I think if you can get in contact with a politician that's in your area, get on that
Hmm.
and see if you can come up with some sort of a resolution, as it pertains to that.
I think that's a good idea because there are just not only places like in the outside world, but there are schools that are not wheelchair accessible or do not have elevators. There's not just like one or two schools. There are a lot of schools,
Yes,
but I think this is why we need to not be afraid to have these types of conversations.
correct.
Because if we don't have these conversations, then things will never ever change.
There's never
Yes.
going to be a resolution.
Yes.
I often say this, around this time, when it deals with national with CP awareness or World CP Day, which is on the 6th of October.
Mhm.
Um, these days that we have or that are designated to us may come and go, but the battle between you and cerebral palsy, the battle with cerebral palsy, never ends.
Mhm. It really doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you might get a brief, um, what's the word I'm looking for? A respite from the pain, the spasms, the muscle tightness, and everything else. But other than that, those days are very few and very far between.
Mhm.
And, there's a lot of people, and I used to be one of those people that would get kind of down on myself and I would feel sorry for myself. But it wasn't until I got older and I started seeing people who are a heck of a lot worse off than I am. And I'm like, I heard a voice in my head going, man, what the hell are you doing? You got a big support system and you're feeling sorry for yourself. Come on, man. And whenever I do feel sorry for myself, I think of my family. I think of how many people admire, depend, respect, and love me. And that's enough to get me through it. And
That's really great.
and reaching out to my audience isn't too isn't too bad of an idea either.
Yeah, it only takes one person to listen.
Yeah, I mean, and like I've been saying, I'm going to be doing a video in honor of CP Awareness Month. It's called "It's Never Too Late" by Marla Gibbs.
Mhm.
I just haven't picked out a date for it yet, but I know I'm going to do it before the date before the month is out. So those of you on YouTube, please be on the lookout for it and please leave your comments. I would definitely love to hear from you. And I want you all to take heed in the message that the song has in it.
Mhm.
It's never too late to start living. Because Jasmine, you know this as well. You can either control it or let it control you. And if it controls you, you either get on with living existing or dying. It's that simple. I mean, I don't mean in a morbid sense, but I think you know exactly where I'm coming from.
I understand what you mean. And I think a lot of people listening to this will understand what you mean because you don't determine what you're given. You don't have a say in that. You don't have a say in that.
Yeah,
But you are and can determine how you deal with what you're given.
yeah. How you play your
You
cards,
don't
so to speak.
exactly. You're dealt the cards. Now the question is, what are you
How
going
how,
to
how,
do with
how
it?
do you how do you play them?
Yeah. What are you going to do with it? And yeah, there are going to be some days where you're going to have those moments where you might want to knock you down for a minute, but it's what you do about it. And like I said, it does take a toll on your mental health. It's not a secret. It will never be a secret. And
It will wear on you, no doubt about it.
you can't pretend like mental health doesn't play a part, but it does.
I mean, you can smile through it all you want, but once that mask comes off, that's when everything gets real.
Exactly. So it's just about what you do with it. So,
Absolutely.
in closing, I want to say this. Eric, I know this probably was a lot, and I probably asked you a lot of questions that you
Oh,
may or may not have been
if I
prepared to answer.
believe me, Jazz, if I wasn't comfortable, I wouldn't. I never would have taken you up on this.
I know, but I really appreciate you coming here and being open and honest, not only with me, but with the audience, because I know that's not easy. And somebody being in your business isn't easy. Whether we're friends or not, I really do appreciate you
Hey,
being here.
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And to the audience, I want to take the time out to say I appreciate you watching this video because it's going to only not give you a perspective that you may not have thought about, may not have seen, but it also can see that everybody with a disability, the one thing we have in common with people that don't have a disability is the fact that we're all human.
Yes.
And no one can change that regardless. They can probably try to put us in 20 different categories, maybe more. But the one thing we all have in common is that we're human. So remember, I'm always thinking of you, sending my love, and I'm always praying for you. And bye for now.
So long, everybody.